So there was a page in the manual that I used to get clean and sober, which a lot of people helped me do, and certainly didn't really do it myself, do it. It was page 417. Anybody that has really had much recovery probably will know exactly the page that I'm talking about. It's quite famous. Acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. If I am, can't remember if it's disturbed or uncomfortable, there are some aspects of my life. This book is almost always referred to as the big book. And we're talking about Alcoholics Anonymous. Wow, he is running in circles, freaking out. You are a crazy little dog. Yes, you are insane. Look at him, insane. Look at him, crazy. He's freaking out. Look at him. You seeing this? Whoa! I'm glad you don't have your just collar on. Did you see him running in circles?
Yes, he was so crazy.
You okay, puppy? I mean, when I said it was perfect, I wish you would kind of stick with the perfect. Tucker, stop. He just found some deer shit. So gross. Dogs are so, but I love him so much. If he wasn't so, we didn't love him so much, we would think he was a dirty little mongrel. Anyway, this book is 164 pages of instructions and then several hundred pages of testimonies from people that it worked for. And it's for that organization. Come on, Tucker. That I just mentioned. That is it's only okay if you're not anonymous with it about yourself. So like, I would never talk about somebody else that was in it that I knew without their permission. And generally try not to really throw the AA name around. It's got a lot of credibility, and that's because of the 12 traditions which have kept it, anonymous and nonprofit and all about helping people. And all it really is, this is what we admit and call it, that it's just one addict or alcoholic helping another achieve sobriety, and that's it. And I think personally that the 12 steps would help. Come on, Tucker. The 12 steps would help anybody. It's a spiritual program of action. And in a world where almost everything is difficult or frustrating in some way or another, or on one day versus another, it's pretty nice to have a spiritual program of action, which literally tells you exactly what to do in many, many situations. It's pretty amazing. And then for the stuff that the book and the meetings don't solve, you've got a sponsor and a network outside of the meetings of people that you meet. When you go to a meeting, you find out, people walk up to you and they're like, hey man, you need some numbers, you need a sponsor. So if you go to a meeting out of town, there's a bunch of people come up to you assuming that you might be new, and they're always extremely nice because they're just like you. They had really bad problems, and through the help of just friendly other people that had the same kind of problems, they were able to stop having those problems. And by those problems, I'm talking about, an inability to stop using alcohol or drugs. And see, I could go into a specific, come on dog, stop. I could go into a specific thing about opiates and medication-assisted treatment, which is the necessary component that allowed me to get off the things that I was doing. Well, this last time, I definitely went to AA for alcohol a long time ago, and again for quite hard drugs, and then most recently for some of the harder ones. And I've had some confinement in my story, and I've gotten clean and sober quite a few times. Managed to stay clean and sober for a year and a half once, a couple years one time, right now we're getting up on 6 years since I was released, both from the state of North Carolina and the bondage of drug addiction. And I had lost literally everything: freedom, possessions, money, wife, son, lost 2 pets while I was away. I mean, it's pretty, it's real shit, as most people know these days. It used to be such a stigma with addiction and drugs, and especially like if you were a felon, for example. There was such a stigma that it was hard to fit into society for people that already found it hard to fit into society. And that's kind of, that's relatively exactly what the 12-step groups are all about. They take a bunch of people that didn't fit into society for one reason or another. We all found ways to feel better when things were not good. And it's like an island of misfit toys, a group of misfits all just trying to make it in this quite crazy world. And it's hard enough without drugs and withdrawal from drugs and need to get more drugs and the money you spend on drugs and the people you hurt doing all that stuff and the time you waste and, the life that you just forego because, you're a slave. And it's, especially when you look back at it, anybody who's had any problems with this stuff and then managed to get free of it is gonna 100% know what I'm talking about. And a thing that we like to say is that I paid for my seat with a lot of, pain and wasted time and all that stuff I just mentioned. So I guess my point of this, and I'm not gonna continue to ramble on, my point of this is to basically say that the 12 steps of all of the recovery programs would help literally anybody live a happier life. But for people with addicted personalities, or you can call it whatever you want, addicts, alcoholics, you can be an addict and not be using drugs yet, or be clean from it and still be crazy because of it, or obsessive about other things, or the list goes on forever. So for those people like me, it's necessary in order to survive, and definitely in order to be happy, to have that spiritual program of action. And for anybody that might be seeing this and thinking spiritual and I don't believe in God or anything like that, the big book pretty much assumes that you come in with not a perfect vision of what you think God is, and it's almost better to not have any, either firmly held religious beliefs that you feel terrible that you're not doing, or firmly held religious beliefs that you're rebelling against. They're both, difficult to deal with. And a lot of people, that's like the reason for using. I know for me, I was looking for God in the bottom of all different kinds of bottles, and it was one of those things where God, you can call it God, you can call it the creator, you can call it the universe, energy, or whatever you want, but that's what created everything, and the thing everything will return to, and it's inconceivable to try to understand it, but it is the thing that we pretty much, as far as I can tell, that we all are craving. And when you don't get it in life, or when life gets hard and you stop getting it in things that are enjoyable and feel good, you kind of are left with nothing if you don't have beliefs that help you deal with stuff, or in the case I'm talking about, the spiritual program of action. And it certainly helps to have, I mean, you do have to buy into the process to a degree. You see that you lost a wing, right? Tucker, stop. You're gonna hurt yourself, fool. So the kind of conclusion is what I was just saying, that, it's necessary to have the spiritual program of action for, if you're addicted personality, addict, but for anybody, it will make things more thorough, more better, more worthwhile. You have that feeling of like, I'm a good person doing good things for good reasons. And, for me, it had been so long since I felt that way. Because all of my actions were either to do something, they were all drug related. It was either to get something, to put something in my body, to get money, to get something, to hide it from somebody, or paying the consequences for it. It was almost every minute of every day. And even the things I did that were good, and the things that I really enjoyed, like even the good stuff, at the very least, you could say it definitely would have been better. And I would have been a lot better. And like the bad things wouldn't have sucked as much, and the good things would have been a lot better. And then, anybody that's ever lost their freedom, especially if you have a family, it's basically the most severe form of mental and emotional torture that you can imagine, because you don't know what's going on with them. You can make a very limited amount of contact through phone calls and visits, barely. And it certainly isn't worth it, but it really is like torture. And for me, what I was able to do for 95% of the time that I was in there was able to sit on my little mattress and burn in, or imprint as deep as I could, the pain of wondering what was going on with my family, the inability to be out there fixing it, knowing I had really done a lot of damage and that I couldn't even start the repairing process until I managed to, wait out the amount of time that I had to wait out. So it was many, many days, and mine was short relative to a lot of people's that I know. I had 2.5 years of probation, which I thought was going to be hell on earth, but it's basically what allowed me to cement in my newfound living patterns and, way of thinking and doing things. And then I got out and got to start to rebuild. And this was almost 6 years ago, and we've rebuilt on me, man. My wife was gone, my son was gone, and they've both been back for a number of years now, but it took a good amount of time. And I guess if anybody's watching this that's, still going through it, it definitely can get better. It can definitely get better. And it only can get better the number of days that you're making it better. And it won't get anything but worse the number of days that you have been or continue to make it worse. So, as shitty as it is, if you're using, you have to stop. And then you can start to move forward. For actual, advice, if you're still using, first of all, leave a comment. I understand this stuff a lot. I will be happy to be, a voice of reason and recovery and things. But, geographically, I obviously am only in a very small area relative to the world and country. So, it would be to go to a meeting and get some phone numbers and find somebody like you that you can start calling and make a couple of friends. And really, that's where it all starts. And you'll be amazed at the end of 30 days how much your life has turned around. And I say this because it's happened to me 5 times. And I wish it had only been once. I wish I had not gone back out and started the whole process over so many times, because it is painful. I mean, the people you hurt, it sucks. And there's nothing that I can say to communicate the feeling of sitting somewhere where you can't leave, knowing that your wife and son both are out there trying to survive without you in a world you just left them in. And I mean, there are no words. Anybody that's ever gone through it knows. It's like I said, it's the worst kind of torture that you can imagine. I mean, I guess maybe physical pain. There's some kinds of things that could, whatever. But mentally and emotionally, worst thing that you can possibly comprehend. I mean, I guess short of, watching something terrible happen to those same people or something like that. But, a reasonable probability of things that happen. It's the most pain that I've had to endure and probably will ever have to endure. I would, it's at least close. Because you literally, it's like being an observer where you can't see anything and you get updates, if you're lucky, once a day. And so, I guess, I don't know. The advice of a moment ago is about as good as it gets, depending on what you're on, medically deal with stuff so something bad doesn't happen. Like if you're on benzos, don't just stop. Talk to, at least go online and research. I tried to do that a couple of times and almost died. It actually has the highest mortality rate for withdrawal than anything else. That's Xanax and all the stuff like it, Valium, and I can't even remember all of them now. I used to be able to recite the list of every single family and every addictive drug that was in each one, but it's been so long that there's actually several that I don't think I can even remember. But you can only start moving forward when you stop moving backwards, and you can only start digging out of a hole when you start making it deeper. And if you go 70 miles into the woods, you got to go 70 miles out of the woods. So, all that shit's true. You can only repair damage when you stop doing damage. And, for real, at least. And you can only start to heal when you stop hurting yourself. And, all of these, kind of cliche sounding things, but they're all true. And,